All right, a lot of people told us we need to get Brooks Alston on. Brooks Alston is the film guy. He is the director of recruiting for the ONSI network. He covers some Georgia as well. But the film breakdowns he does are really, really good in college football. He is with us now on the JohnstonRVCenter.com hotline for the first time. Welcome in, Brooks. How are you today?
I'm doing well, boys. I'm honestly surprised I wasn't on last week. Massive football game, Georgia, Alabama, no call. But hey, not complaining. We're on this week, so we're happy to be here.
That's
boys.
A failure on my part, Brooks. That was a failure on my part. I'll go ahead and say it. We have so many people that have sent us some work you've done on both Milroe and Auburn, and said you need to get this guy on to talk about it. So let's start with Auburn. And one of the most recent ones you did is kind of dovetailing off what Bo Wallace said about Hugh Freeze. Was his offenses always have a turnover problem. That's one thing for a guy to say. That is the truth in there for Bo Wallace. Do his offenses have a turnover problem?
Do they ever? I was curious, man. I've been, obviously looking forward to this matchup and preparing for this matchup. And I heard Kirby say something yesterday during the press conference, or maybe it was Monday during the press conference, about tips and overthrows. This offense is really, really great, but they keep turning the ball over. So I'm like, why do they keep turning the ball over? Tips and overthrows, interesting. So I start looking at football, like just thinking about football in general, and knowing that Hugh Freeze's offense are kind of predicated off of RPOs. He does it to an extreme more than most football coaches. That's what you have to stop Auburn with when you go to prepare for them, stopping the RPOs. So I got to thinking, man, RPOs can be really quick decisions. They're predicated off of making sure that we have the right answer to the defense. What they do pre-snap, we're always going to have an answer to. If there's too many bodies in the box, we're going to throw the ball. If there's improper leverage out there, we're going to throw the ball. If they don't have enough bodies in the box, we're going to run the ball, right? So it's all about this pre-snap look. Well, what happens if, the pre-snap look and the post-snap look change? What happens if what they show me pre-snap changes post-snap? Well, turnovers and indecisiveness at the quarterback position can be created quite often. And the history shows, man, this guy has coached 11 years as a head football coach, 9 of which have been in the Power 5. In the Power 5, he's never had a season where his starting quarterback didn't throw at least 13 interceptions. This guy has years of turnovers on his game logs of 29, 27, 28. Like, he's done this over time. And the reason being, a lot of these decisions can be complicated with a little bit of disguise. And most Power 5 defenses in the SEC particularly have the ability to do this. Oklahoma did this exactly to them last week. You guys had Peyton Thorne on. And though that wasn't necessarily an RPO, you can even see the kind of option, like we have an option to do 2 types of things post-snap. You can see that even apply to his intermediate passing game with that, play that Peyton Thorne described where, pre-snap, we've got really, really good inside leverage. And then post-snap, I'm watching to see where he goes, but they changed the picture on me and I'm unable to see that. A lot of that stuff showing up on tape and creating turnovers.
So what you're saying is there's enough track record where this thing's dramatically not going to turn around. We should expect more and more turnovers.
I mean, the track record is what the track record is. When we go 8 of 11 years as a head football coach with having more than 20 turnovers, when we go 10 of 11 years as a head football coach and we fail to win the turnover margin ever, like we do it once, and it's because we have Malik Willis, right? And Malik Willis is a really good football player. We have found out, right? He's winning games and making good decisions on the NFL at this point. So, yeah, when that guy's got NFL caliber quarterback play, he might be able to protect the football and win the turnover margin, but every other year, 10 out of 11, this guy's football teams turn it over more than his defenses, create turnovers. So, yeah, this is a historical problem at this point. The film shows it. The data shows it. Everything about this guy's offense shows you that it's going to be pretty turnover prone. Now, that being said, it's at a much higher rate than ever before, right? Not much higher. I mean, he's got years of 29 turnovers, and they're on pace to turn it over 35 times this year. So it's a net delta of 6. It's not a drastic difference. But, the quarterback play hasn't been great. But this guy's quarterback play historically leads to turnovers.
That difference would be 0.5 a game. That's another half an interception a game. That's a lot. That is a lot. That's a lot on average.
Well, half a team turnover.
Yeah.
That's the other thing. It's not just
interceptions.
Complications at the quarterback position of creating interceptions. These mesh points and elongated mesh points, they can create a lack of security with the ball as well. So they tend to fumble the ball as well. They got years of 29 turnovers. with 18 interceptions. It's still putting the football and losing the football on the turf via fumble 11 times.
For the fan that was watching the Georgia-Alabama game the other night, first half, second half, what did you see Georgia do differently that, I'll use your word, changed the picture on Jalen Milroe and the Alabama offense? What changed at halftime? What did Kirby and the guys do?
Yeah, so they bumped alignment pretty drastically. They took nickels and outside linebackers and safeties and kind of bumped them outside of the box to alleviate some of those issues that Milroe was creating with his legs. And the offense by design at Alabama does a really good job of what I call shortening your edges, right? Bringing corners in, bringing outside linebackers in, making them play tight, and then attacking their edges with all the speed and all the ability to, really run number 4 and really use his legs and speed out towards the edge. So I saw an obvious bump in alignment. And obviously, the social media's picked up on the 3-3-5 that Georgia bumped into, using all 3 linebackers, Jalen Walker, C.J. Allen, and Smile Mondon on the field. And that kind of created some problems as well. Offensively, nothing really changed. There wasn't really any adjustments from Georgia or Alabama defensively. The difference in the first half and second half was execution. I thought the first 3 possessions offensively for Georgia, that's some of the worst execution I've seen that football team have in, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 years. It was bad. Drops, missed assignments, quarterback, a little bit indecisiveness. It was everything.
Brooks Austin is with us. At Brooks Austin BA on Twitter is where you follow him. At Brooks Austin BA. He is the film guy, does tremendous breakdowns. Again, you guys are seeing him because you're sending us his stuff. It's just a derelict of our duty not to have him on the show just yet. So we have fixed that today. He's on the JohnstonRVCenter.com hotline. Can teams do that to Alabama moving forward, though, would be the question. Like, Georgia didn't necessarily put out the book on how to slow this offense down. Georgia's got elite talent that allows them to do some different things. But B, Alabama was cooperating just a little bit. Am I wrong in this, Brooks? And they were content to maybe try to burn clock. It wasn't necessarily the same exact stuff they were doing in the first half.
I would push back on that.
Okay.
There were 5 possessions in that football game to start the second half, 4 of which they punted on, did Alabama. Of those, there were 17 plays over those 4 possessions that ended in a punt. Of those 4 possessions, I think they started with a pass attempt on 3 of 4. So the idea that they were burning clock, not exactly. And then the other pushback was, well, we didn't deplore Jalen Milroe at that point in the game. Those 4 possessions, 17 plays. He had 5 rushing attempts himself. They dropped him back to pass 8 times. He completed 5 of those 8. In other words, Jalen Milroe accounted for 13 of the 17 offensive plays in those possessions in which they were stagnation. All right. I think as fans and as football observers, we have way too often of a tendency to just go, oh, conservative play calling, as opposed to looking at the other side and saying, oh, no. They made an adjustment. They're causing issues. They're getting you off the field. I think that was what happened in that area of the portion of the football game. And then it boiled down to what it's going to boil down to the rest of the year for anybody playing Alabama. Can you stop the playmakers? You can scheme all you want. You can change everything you want. You can make adjustments mid-game. But it's going to boil down to, can you tackle 4? Can you guard 2? And I'm going to be honest, I don't think anybody can. So you're going to have to consistently do that or magically create turnovers. Ooh, can we pray for the turnover fairy to show up today? Maybe, but this Jalen Milroe guy's got 1 interception in his last 8 starts. So he's progressed. The offense has progressed. This Ryan Williams guy showed up. It's the scariest offense in college football right now. I don't even think there's a discussion.
Yeah, when we talk Kalen DeBoer offenses and go back to the Indiana days with Michael Penix and Jay Kaner at Fresno State, and now what he's got with Jalen Milroe and Nick Sheridan, a first-year play caller, and I know it's his fingerprints, Kalen DeBoer's fingerprints all over it, but what makes his offenses so quarterback-friendly? Because those are different quarterbacks.
So it's the opposite of Hugh Freeze in the sense that Hugh Freeze is trying to get these pre-snap, post-snap looks and get everything that works and have the perfect play called. And, ooh, what happens if the defense changes? Alabama and Kalen DeBoer has winners on both sides, right? They do a lot of duos. They put a lot of 2 guys on one side, 2 guys on the other. If they're not, they're in 3-by-1. And what they're trying to do is give you man beaters on this side, zone beaters on this side. In other words, hey, whatever the defense does, QB, you're going to have an answer. We're going to have an answer for you. All right. On top of that, we've got really, really good football players. So the motions as well. really clarify the picture for the quarterback. But that's every offense nowadays. Everybody's using some type of motion. But DeBoer's unique ability to play a pro-style formational offense while also getting stacked releases like Tennessee does without having to play without all this major amounts of space. That's been the most impressive thing and the most translatable thing that I've seen DeBoer do dating back to Indiana, Washington, and now Alabama. The difference with what they're doing at Alabama, and it's the first time in DeBoer's career that I've really studied him and watched him, they have a dual-threat quarterback. They got a guy that can use his legs. And, in fact, this is something that he hasn't really prioritized on the recruiting trail. You look at the guys that he's landed, right? Michael Penix, got him out of the portal from Indiana, really like what he does. Michael Penix is a processor. He's doing his damage from the pocket. They had an opportunity to go into the transfer portal before he got hired at Alabama. Who did they go get? Will Rogers. Will Rogers and Jalen Milroe could not be any further from the antithesis of one another. You look at Austin Mack, he got him to reclassify to Alabama or to Washington and then transfer him to Alabama. That's 6'6", 230 pocket passer, going to do it from the pocket. What he's doing right now with Jalen Milroe is unique even to his own historical context. He is adapting on the fly and creating a new style of offense that he's never really put on tape, which you could imagine as a defensive coordinator preparing for this guy. Like, what else are we going to add to this dude's bag? You know what I mean?
I love the DeBoer Sheridan offense. I loved Sark's offense when he was in Tuscaloosa. I still love it at Texas. And I was a big Lane Kiffin fan, play calling in Tuscaloosa too. Why does Lane end up having a game like he had last week? What happens in the Lane offense that gives you 2017 a loss to Kentucky?
First and foremost, Kentucky is going to drag you into deep water and hope you can't hold your breath. And they're going to hold the ball for 38 minutes. And that's what they're going to try to do. The difference in the football games between Georgia and Kentucky are obviously home and away. All right, that's first and foremost. But the real difference and the reason the game plan worked for Kentucky, they scored touchdowns in the red zone. That's what they did. They didn't settle for field goals. They designed winners. Ole Miss gave up tuds. That's what happened in that football game. When I give you 22 minutes of time of possession and I hold the rock for 38, all I got to do is manufacture a couple of stops. That's really all I have to do and manage the explosives. And with a veteran defense like what Kentucky has and the ability to play a multitude of defensive coverages, right? Mix the looks all the time while also not having to dedicate a bunch of bodies to the box to stop the run because they're massive and they're veteran, right? They got a bunch of starts on that front six at Kentucky. So I think it was a lot of, I'm not going to lie to you, I haven't looked at the tape. I watched the game, however, and that's my thought process of Kentucky. You got to get them off the field. If you're going to allow them to just 3 yards in a cloud of dust you to death, you're going to drown in deep water. There's no doubt.
Spectacular stuff, Brooks. Brooks Austin, BA on Twitter, the film guy. What you got coming up this week? Give us some teases. What you got?
Oh, man, we are live on our network over on the Film Guy Network Monday through Thursday, 8 o'clock to 10 o'clock. I've already busted out the film study from first half and second half of that Alabama-Georgia game. I'm trying to get into watching Auburn tape on offense, and it is explosive. Do not get me wrong, but it is hard to watch. It is hard to watch. So we're going to think about doing some film breakdown on that one. And now that I've already teased it, we're probably going to have to.
No, you got to do it now. There's no doubt. You absolutely have to do it. We'll look for that at Brooks Austin, BA. Brooks, thank you so much for the time, man. Pleasure talking to you.
No doubt, boys. We'll see you soon.
All right, man. Take care. Brooks with us on the JohnstonRVCenter.com hotline.